All right. Well,
Bonjour.
hi. Hi. My name's Nathan Heston. I work for my own company, BizCIT. We've been operating in Sydney primarily, but also in interstate in Victoria since about the start of 2018. So it's been uh, quite an interesting journey to, you know, watch technology and how it's changed even in that short period of time. It's been what, six plus years that we've been operating for. When we started, it was all about basically just, okay, how do we support businesses? How can we give them tech support, either on site or remote, which are two things that we do. And then it's just morphed into this. Cybersecurity is number one priority for us now. Unfortunately, I think a lot of business owners aren't treating it as that kind of priority at the moment, especially small businesses. I think mainly because it's a fear thing. So they're afraid of two things. One, what they don't know about cybersecurity, which is where I can help them, but also what the cost is. So, like, a lot of people seem to think that, you're talking about approaching a company like Cyber CX. They're pretty big, internationally, but they're sort of more that enterprise level. So, of course, they're expensive, and their capabilities are huge. But it's kind of, if small business owners kind of look at it at a point of view, okay, well, what are the capabilities that I need in a small business cybersecurity specialist? Do I need to have somebody that knows everything and has like a staff of, a couple of thousand people? No, the answer is, you just need to look at a couple of little things that can, greatly improve your cybersecurity. So, yeah, that's
Perfect.
us in a nutshell. But yeah, Jordan, your situation is pretty standard. So just for everyone listening in or watching, basically what I did was I sent you a number of questions just about your current IT environment, how you're doing a couple of things. There was about 15 questions, and some of the stuff you're doing okay and you're doing fine with. Yes, yeah, I know. You're surprised, aren't you?
Very.
Very surprised. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I think you're doing fine. I mean, um, you've got one main thing. There's a couple of things I'll go through with you, but the one main thing that I can see where you've got a little bit of a gap in your cybersecurity is that you're all alone. You don't currently work with somebody like me who can check things for you, who can do some monitoring for you. So there's no oversight, if you like, of what's going on within your IT, with your computers. I mean, you don't have 50 or 500 of them, granted, but it's still important to keep on top of things. And you're not going to do it. Your specialty is marketing. And you do it well. So it's that's something that you focus on. It's good to have somebody who's an expert in their area in IT to look at things like, okay, well, what's happening with the hardware that you're using? What's happening with those laptops that you use? Are they being updated regularly? You wouldn't know. Normally, it's Windows primarily which you're using, so it does automatic updates. But sometimes you could miss some critical updates, critical security updates. That is. You can also miss out on hardware updates. So the hardware that you're running often has its own set of software that is has security vulnerability patches released for over time. Things like let's see, what's a good example? Things like you told me not to get technical. there's there is a thing called a chipset in the majority of computers these days. The chipset has its own set of software, and it needs to be updated over time as vulnerabilities are found and manufacturers release updates. There's
Often would
also,
that need to happen? So what if I
how
just sort of
often?
didn't update things enough because my partner goes, you need to update your computer. And I'm like, it's doing stuff. I've got loads of tabs open, which is my to-do list. He's like, you need to update. So how often does that
How
update need to
often?
happen?
Yeah, look, this is where the monitoring becomes important, like having someone looking in the background and seeing, because all that stuff. So what we can do is we can install some software on your computer, which basically monitors all that stuff. So it sees like, okay, well, how old is the BIOS? on your computer, which is the underlying, that's the operating system before Windows loads, basically. We can see how old that is. And that'll often give us a clue as to, okay, well, what's happening with the other components? Maybe they're also not that young, for want of a better word, and need to be updated. How often do you need to have it? Well, look, if you're checking at least once a quarter to see if there are any updates available, so every 3 months. So just most manufacturers, so the likes of HP, Dell, you're using ASUS. I'm not sure about their updating software, whether they offer a package like that, but HP, Dell, Lenovo, they all have this software updating package that's installed on their computers, and you can basically just go in there and just say check for updates, and then it'll run off and check for updates.
Another question on that bit, if you're saying how old the software is on the actual laptop, how often should laptops actually be replaced?
Look, but laptops, look, I mean, as long as they're being supported. So basically every product you buy, a laptop or a phone or whatever, it has an end of life. So the manufacturers will support it up until that end of life, and sometimes I go a bit beyond that. So it's keeping an eye out for that end of life date, and knowing that before you purchase a product is pretty good as well. So sometimes, like, you see a great deal, you're going to buy a laptop, it's like, wow, how good's this deal? But that could be a couple of generations old already, so it's going to reach end of life sooner. And why that's important is because the manufacturers, they will release security vulnerability updates during the life of that product. When it hits end of life, they'll typically stop releasing security updates.
Wow.
But
Sneaky.
yeah. Look, yeah, planned obsolescence, maybe you could call it that, if you want to. But look, it just depends on budget. It's going to come into play as well. So not everyone's going to want to replace their laptop, every time it becomes end of life. And I mean, I've seen laptops. I've got clients at the moment who have laptops that are like 10 years old, and that's against my advice that they're still running those laptops at 10 years of age. But look, what are you going to do? I can't put a gun to their head. So all I can do is just make sure that the software that they're running on that, the security software in particular, is up to speed. So yeah.
So tell me, what am I missing out on, and how can I improve? How can you help me, not get hacked? And also, what should I look out for? Because I have no idea. I just do my thing.
The big thing is, like, you need to get you should have some assistance. You should have somebody on call that you can call, someone like me, that you can basically pick up the phone if you do notice something pop up on your machine. So that could be something malicious. You're just going through your day, you get a notification window pop up in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, and it says your antivirus software is out of date. So a lot of people will see that and they'll go, oh yeah, okay, click here to update, click, bang, but that's malicious. It's downloaded something nasty and it's now on your computer. So having someone you can call and sort of say, hey, look, I've got this notification. Is it legitimate? And then someone like me who can go in remotely into your machine, have a look at it. Or we can even check in the background. If you use our security software, we can check that and see if it was our software that prompted you to update. Typically, our software won't prompt you to update. It prompts us that you need an update. So you don't even see that. So it's kind of hands off. It all just, that's one of the benefits of working with someone like us, is that it's all happening in the background for you, and we're watching out for these things on a daily basis to make sure that you're secure.
Sorry, what happens if we do click on something accidentally? What happens then? Like, obviously, you're not there looking at it already. So I go, shit, I need to now call someone. Here I am on the phone to you. What happens then?
Yeah, one of the nice things about, so we can provide you, so you're using a different antivirus product to what we're using. So our product is by a company called SentinelOne, and it's business grade, security software. It's machine learning based, and it's very good at being offline. So it doesn't need to be connected to the internet in order to do its job, and to do its job well. So it can basically just sit there and it's just watching the behavior of your machine. So what it'll normally happen is that we rely on that security software to find or see that something's not quite right, something's happened on your machine that's caused that pop-up. And then what it does is it'll squash it. So it not only will squash it, but if it's something like ransomware, which will automatically start to encrypt your files, like whatever it can find, Sentinel-1 will see that, it'll squash it from proceeding, but it'll also roll back any changes that were made automatically.
Oh,
So that's one of the benefits of the Sentinel-1 software versus the software that you're using for security purposes. So some of it's automated. Not Sentinel-1 won't always be able to stop whatever it is that's on your computer, but it will always notify us. It'll always tell us, hey, I think there's a problem over here. I haven't quite seen it before. I don't know what it is. Maybe you want to have a look at it. So it flags it for us, and then we can get in there, check it out, see what's going on, and then we can get in touch with you and say, hey, Jordan, like there's a problem with your computer. We need remote access, or we need to come in and be in front of the machine to fix the problem. So yeah.
got it. And it's definitely increasing that vulnerability for small businesses with cybersecurity, because we don't think about it. We just kind of pretend it doesn't exist until it happens.
Yeah, look,
I guess
100%.
that's the
Like
bad
most of we like to think that something couldn't possibly happen to us. This is not going to happen to me. No way. This is other people. They get hit with this stuff. But like in reality, like it's only a matter of time. Back several years ago, back when I first started the business, even in 2018, the majority of businesses that were being targeted were larger businesses, larger corporations, not so much the small business or home office operators. It's now it is those people that are being targeted because the tools have changed. So before, hackers, if you want to call them that, they had to be very technically minded. They needed to have a certain skill set in order to be able to breach the security of a large corporation. For example, like Telstra, for instance. Now what happened is that those same hackers, they're actually creating tools that the average Joe, like you, like me, without any programming experience or whatever, can just subscribe to. Like it's like you subscribe to Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace or whatever. Yeah, you can go and subscribe to get access to a set of hacking tools that are easy to use. You don't need any real technical ability to use them. So that's where the whole it's not just this small subset of large corporations or mid-sized corporations that are being targeted now. Now it's also small businesses, and now it's people, individuals as well that are being targeted. So we're all targeted, and it is only a matter of time. So if you're taking a few little steps, like getting into like a managed service, like what we provide out, we have a product called Protect that supplies the security software, gives you access to experts, and also takes control of your updates for you. So we do all the update management as well. That starts at 1990 XGST a month. So it's cheapest chip. So that's per computer. It's like less than a cup of coffee a week.
literally.
These days,
Yeah.
yeah. A cup of coffee is like $5.50, $6 now. So we're talking
Wait for it to go up.
Yeah, it's going to go even higher. I know. I'm going to put my prices up. So,
2 cups of coffee. Yeah.
2 cups of coffee. That's what. Yeah, okay. I'm making a note now. Put prices up. Yeah. But
So, what are the main ways that people can hack me right now? So, I'm mostly on my email, on my phone. I'm connecting to other people's LinkedIn. There are plenty of ways that people can get to me. Is it
yep.
emails? How are they going to get to me?
Yeah, look, your biggest problem is definitely going to be through email.
Okay.
So you are very good in one respect. You use your mobile hotspot when you're out and about, rather than using public Wi-Fi networks, or even Wi-Fi networks that are like in co-working spaces. They're also something to watch out for, because in a co-working space, you don't often see that you get your own password to the Wi-Fi networks. Yeah, that's one password that's shared with everybody in that co-working space. So that in itself is a bit of a vulnerability. So using the mobile hotspot is really clever of you, Jordan. I'm very happy to see that you're doing that. So
What could
continuing
happen
with that.
otherwise? How, like in a shared workspace, you would just automatically just connect normally. What can happen if you connect to that network? How do people get in?
Well, basically what happens is if you've got the password, if you've got the network name, the network ID for that co-working space, and the guy next to you who's a hacker, he also has the network name and the password to that space. you're effectively on the same network. So he can see the data that you're sending over that network. Like you could see his as well if you're interested, but I'm guessing that you're not. But if he can see that data, then he can capture it. But then he can also, potentially decrypt that data and see what data you're actually sending, and potentially use that against you or extort you. If you didn't want some particularly confidential information within your business to get out there in the wider world, he could make that happen or threaten to make that happen, and then say, look, pay me X amount of dollars in Bitcoin, and I'll not do that. And unfortunately, when that happens, you can't trust this person. You'll pay them, and then they'll go and post it up there on the net anyway. Once your data's out there, it's out there.
So
So
is that
as we find,
including
yeah.
even logging into your own email address? Can they see you logging in?
They couldn't see you logging in, but they can see the data that you're generating out of like your email application. So unless you're using encryption, like encrypting all your emails before you send them out, not a lot of people do. It still can be visible to someone who's determined enough and knowledgeable enough to be able to capture that data and read it and do something with it. So emails, one of those areas where, yes, you would more than likely get targeted through a phishing campaign, for instance. So it's important for somebody like you, dealing with a lot of people, getting a lot of inquiries. You need to be mindful of the emails that you're receiving, and just keep an eye on, where they're coming from, who's sending them, do they look legitimate, checking the domain that it's come from, and then if you're doing all that and you're still a bit suspicious, then if you have a relationship with someone like me, you could fire that off to me and say, hey, what do you reckon about this email? My clients do that pretty regularly, and I can advise them and say, look, yeah, it's a problem or it's not. So yeah. But you also have an issue with two things. Data loss is a concern for you. So accidental data loss or malicious data loss, because you're doing backups, as you said, but you don't have a regular schedule for those. So and you don't have someone sort of monitoring that, making sure that they happen, i.e. yourself or someone like me. So that's an issue. So if you accidentally delete a file or a folder, or say you had a temp staff member, was going to work with you for a month or so, the relationship ended badly, you had to sack them for whatever reason. If they got wind that was going to happen, then they could maliciously go in and start deleting data. And if you don't have a backup, it's going to be difficult to get it back. That's why backups are a good idea. And they're very, very cheap. I mean, you're talking, less than $10 a month per user, to do a backup of, say, Microsoft 365 data to another third-party cloud backup provider. And the
Is
other
there
thing,
any that
George,
you suggest not to use? Like I've got Google, I'm using some of there. I'm using some from Hotmail, which is now Gmail.
Hotmail is now Outlook.com. Yeah, Outlook.
Yes.
Hotmail's Microsoft. Yeah.
So I've
Look, in
got
terms of
those
those,
two in the cloud. Is that a
yeah,
safe place to store things?
yeah. Look, it is, but you need to be mindful of sharing with external parties. So if you're sharing files or folders externally, basically you need to be mindful of the fact that sharing is often turned on and it's left on permanently. So what's often a good idea is, if your cloud platform provides it, is to set an expiry on that access, which I know you can do with Microsoft 365. I'm not too sure on the Google Workspace side of things, but I'm assuming they probably would have that. But also being able to track what you've shared and with whom as well. Sometimes you just kind of, yeah, I'll share that file or I'll share that folder, and then you kind of forget, time goes by and you're like, well, who did I share that with, and how long ago was that, or what have I actually shared with somebody? It's hard to keep track of all that. And there are reports that you can get, you can audit that access as well. So that's something that you should be doing from time to time, maybe a couple of times a year. Just run off some reports, or have your IT support provider like me run that report off for you, have a look through it, say, here you go, Jordan, do you want to keep sharing this stuff? And then you can go through that and you can start to close it off. So Yeah. But other than that, what else could you do, Jordan? Everyone sort of knows multi-factor authentication these days. If there is an option on whatever online account you've got to turn that on, then yeah, turn it on. Yeah, turn it on. Passwords are.
Sometimes it gets annoying though.
Oh, 100%. I agree. It drives me mad. So it's
But it's safer.
it is. It is. I can't remember how many credentials I had. I think I have over like 800 now, like accounts, and a lot of those had multi-factor authentication. So it can get a little bit messy with multi-factor. But that's where a password manager can help you. So something like Keeper Security, LastPass, One Password. Sorry, One Password. They're all password management systems that can basically hold and generate those multi-factor authentication keys for you. So it gives you a central area for all that stuff as well. And you really should, if you're putting all your passwords together in one spot, you really need to pay attention to the security that is around that one spot. So using something like so there's now pass keys that are starting to become more prevalent. So that's a software-based version of what this is. I'll just see if you can see that. See that little key
Yeah.
there? That's a YubiKey. So basically, I use these to secure as many accounts as I possibly can with. So you not only need to get the username and password to hack into my password manager, you also need to know the multi-factor code, and you also need to have the hardware security token. So the chances of somebody breaking into my password manager is pretty low. You know, there's a lot of hurdles you got to get over in order to get access to my gear. So yeah,
they'd
setting
probably give
yourself
up
up
after that.
is a good idea. Yeah,
After a few tries,
yeah.
it's
Well, I
like,
mean,
okay, well, next one.
yeah. Look, I mean, that's the idea basically. I mean, you want to get it to the point where you're too young to know this, and of course you're from England as well. So here in Australia, we have NRMA Insurance. I'm sure you know NRMA Insurance. They ran an ad campaign years ago, which was about keeping your car secure, so keeping your vehicle secure, and it was all about basically that it was all about don't leave anything in plain sight in your car. Don't leave it on the back seat, whatever it is. If it's I don't know, a wallet, for instance, don't leave it on the back seat because someone will smash a window and take it.
Yeah.
Leave it, put it under the seat where no one can see it, or put it in the glove box, or whatever
Mm.
was the recommendation from them. So it's kind of a bit like that. So cybersecurity is a bit like that. It's just don't leave anything in plain sight. Don't make it too easy for people to get access to your passwords or to your data or to your devices. Basically, that's and just take a few little small steps to sort of make it difficult for them. Is good practice.
Fantastic. And last of all, just 3 tips for people that would help them really quickly. They can implement
3
it
tips.
today. 3
Okay.
tips.
Be mindful of emails that come in that you're receiving for starters. Just be a little bit cautious on and trust, but verify. So verify that the email you're receiving is actually from the person that you're typically receiving it from. Back up your data. So cloud platforms are terrific for continuity, keeping the service up and running. They rarely go down, but what they don't do is they don't back up your data. So protecting you from malicious or accidental data deletion requires a backup, basically, and they're pretty cheap. And yeah, enable MFA or multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication. Is another way to say it, but and get a bit serious with it. Start using pass keys. Get out there and do a bit of research on pass keys. See what they're like. They're available on Apple accounts, for instance, are running them now, and there's many others that you can also use a pass key with, or use a hardware security token. Just go that next step up above usernames and passwords, and that'll protect you.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathan, for all those tips and digging through what I have. Thank you very much, guys.
It's all right. Thanks, mate. Bye. Are we saying bye?